intentions, distractions, and something that has been on your weekly playlist. By the way, just like a quick public service announcement that now that we're gonna be starting with more Params parties, I'm putting together a new Jams for Building Economies playlist. So we'll be also like promoting that, and hope you like it. So let's start with Juanca. Intentions, distractions, and what's been on your playlist this week.
Hello everyone. My intention is to sync with comms. My distraction is that I am making lunch, and I have been listening the same playlist that I posted last week. That is Esmeraldas by a guy that is called Crudo Means Raw. I will share it again, and I'll pass to Durgadas.
Yeah, my intention is just to see if I can figure out what in the heck is going on. Like always, I don't feel like I ever really know what's going on in this place. But my somehow I always find a way to kind of make it work. So yeah, my intention is, as always, just to see where I can contribute. My distraction is my regular day job, and why have all my taskbar icons turned into plain icons on Windows 11? So I'll pass it to T.E.A.M.
Hey, my intentions just to see what's going on in comms, to just know what's going on, how I can help. And distractions are I'm also in the kitchen cooking, so because Juanca and I have the same hours for eating. And then playlist, I feel like you guys announcing you're sharing playlists makes me really excited because I never have a good playlist. But what I've been doing lately is having like WNYC, which is an NPR station from New York, on in the background because hearing about traffic in Long Island City somehow makes me feel calm, even though it has no bearing on my life whatsoever. And I'll pass to Acid Laser.
Thanks. My intentions is just to sing with you guys. Distractions. There is another hurricane here in Mazatlan, as always. And in my playlist, I have been listening to a series soundtrack about a series called Ocupas, made by the Argentinian band El Motor Policial Motorizado. And I pass it to Nate.
Thank you. Yeah, my intentions are just to listen in and get caught up with everything in comms. Distractions, it's still early morning, I guess. And so, yeah. And then on my playlist, I'm currently listening to a podcast on women in space. So going through the space history through the lens of the influential women who've done that. So it's pretty cool. And I will pass it to Zep.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, my intention is sing with you guys and also present the Twitter analysis that David made. And yeah, he told me like he needs some support, and yeah, I'm here to help him. And I do not have any distraction. And for the music, Blake just released a new album, so go and listen, Blake. He's an awesome artist. Back to you, Chuy.
Thank you,
I forgot to
Septi.
mention my playlist. I've been listening a lot to an album called Blackbird by a group called Alter Bridge. It's been running in my head for the last few days. So it's also got an incredibly kick-ass song called White Knuckles. If you ever want to look it up, it's extremely good.
Alter Bridge, you said they're gonna?
Yeah.
Okay, I found it. Okay. Thanks for sharing, everyone. And my intentions for today is I've been getting like really good feedback from everyone. Oh, hi, Griff. And yeah, I wanted to just open some more stuff to see how we can put together a better working group funding proposal. And distractions. This is a super busy week. I have like a lot of post-its, so sometimes I remember stuff and write it down. So if I get distracted by a couple of seconds, just know that it's gonna be like this week. So sorry about that. And my weekly playlist, I've been listening to a really nice live album by King Crimson that actually happened in Mexico City like 3 or 4 years ago. It's called Meltdown, and I highly recommend it. It's also almost like 3.5 hours, so it's just like a good album to work with. Uh, and before we start, I'll pass it to Griff to see intentions, distractions, and what's in on your weekly playlist.
My playlist, I've been hanging out with Mitch a little bit. He came back to Costa Rica, so and he introduced me to this crew called Jungle, and it just feels like I'm in the jungle. So I like listening. I've been listening to that a lot lately, and it's good working music. And then as far as intentions, just to hang out and be useful. Distractions, I will probably be focusing on other things a little bit while just hacking on other random things. But I'm here to be useful. I'll pass it back to you, Chuy.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with our first agenda topic today, which is David Septi's Analytics Corner, since David couldn't join us today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'll pass it to you, Septi.
Muted. Oh, hello. Yeah, I was muted. Sorry for that. Let me tap here. Okay. Yeah, this is the Twitter analytics from October 12th that David prepared. Yeah, all of this is done by David. I'm just presenting it. So yeah, just so you know. And yeah, welcome to the Twitter analytics presentation of October 12th. I'm presenting the analytics as favor to David, who had to be away today. I will take some questions at the end of the presentation, and thanks everyone for coming. We have adjusted the live period of the Twitter analytics where possible to match the 2-week rolling period of David Analytics Corner. Unfortunately, we cannot adjust the title page, and so we still get 20 days summary as default. The refined setting applies to the tweet activity on slides 6 and 7. Top tweet was the third session of gravity training, and the top mention was the tweet by Humberto Beso. Note that the lowest right, the 8 tweets and the 8,088 tweets in impressions so far this month, 2,062 profile visits and 42 mentions, and 44 new followers. And then top follower was the last week, Kate TV, and the top media tweet was the weekly update. And yeah, we can see the stats here. So this line now deal only with the last 2 weeks period. So the TC tweets earned like 12.7k impressions, 864 impressions per day average. So the engagement rate is 3.8%, and with an average of 6 links clicks per day. And then, yeah, we have 2 retweets without comments per day, 9 likes per day on average, and 1 reply per day. So yeah, in conclusion, that's the data, and if anyone have any questions. Yeah, basically, like, it's very detailed, that data, and I don't know if someone have questions. We could also run into the.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know anything more about this KTV, Septi?
Oh.
I just think it was an interesting profile.
I know KTV. I remember her from a long time ago. She's an interesting one, I'd say. I remember she was part of the Swarm City community a long time ago. But she shouldn't have that many followers. Not like last round. Brittany had way more followers than I imagine KTV has.
Yeah, KTV is 5.7K, almost 5.8.
Yeah. So what I would say is, looking at these stats, is that we had a bad 2-week period.
Yeah, it could be much better.
Yeah, on this screen, I'm just checking them, and yeah, it seems like, it decreased a bit. The only thing that increased is the followers, 136, but the rest, this period was a bit lower. But also David was telling me, like this last period he was not able to be so active, and he's going to try to be more active in the next ones. He told me to say that.
Yeah, I think we could do a better job at making sure that we're amplifying the tweets for sure, passing them around through DMs to each other and that kind of thing. That would help a lot, getting some extra retweets.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to ask to the Twitter analytics corner? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's pass to our next topic agenda. This is a thread that I found on Twitter. Actually, someone that I've been talking to, like, about DAOs, and it's one of the creators that I've been trying to onboard. He sent me this because he found it was like interesting. So at some points, I even think that it's not like really accurate. But I wanted to show this to everyone and try to see if we could get some feedback to how much of this do we think is real? How much of this do we think it's like a similar path that we can offer contributors to the TEC? And just in general, see how much of this we can take for our own onboarding process, let's say, like try to like explain in a brief and efficient way what is the TEC and how do we work. So Peter Yang, I don't really know who this guy is. It's Oh, this is interesting. He's followed by Hannibal Buress. He's a really good comedian. In case for those of you that don't know. So Peter Yang says, "What is a DAO? Let me try to explain using an example. Imagine that you want to work for a hot tech startup. Instead of applying for a job, you can just join this startup Slack with one click. There's no real onboarding. You see dozens of channels right away. It's overwhelming, but you start exploring. You introduce yourself and another person reaches out. They point you to 2 different ways to work for this startup, bounties and teams. I thought this one was interesting. Bounties is a massive JRA board with tickets on everything from taking meeting notes to shipping feature. You take notes for a meeting and share them in Slack. Someone marks the ticket as done and you get a few shares of the company in return. You want to contribute more and check out the growth team Slack. Someone leads this team, but nobody reports to them. You volunteer to ship a marketing page for the website for 100 company shares. You're finding it hard to coordinate with other people in this team as everyone seems to be part-time. Somehow you still manage to ship the page with another contributor and you both get more shares. You like that you only get rewarded if you put in the work versus FaceTime. You figured out why people are part-time. They're all working for 5 other startups at the same time. People are just choosing to work on whatever they're most interested in. And almost all decisions at these startups are public for everyone on the internet to see. there does seem to be 20 people who are less part-time at this startup. These core contributors all own significant company shares and can vote on decisions. A month into working for this startup, you want to get some performance feedback. However, you don't have a manager. Instead, you meet one-on-one with core contributors to get feedback. There's also no career ladder, but someone submits a proposal to give you 150K salary for your hard work. There's no CEO to approve this. Instead, all contributors vote and the proposal passes. You feel validated that you're getting a salary. Maybe you'll only work for 2 other startups instead of 5. So that's how this startup DAO works. Most people are part-time and work at multiple startups. All decisions are transparent, and you earn the right to own more of the company by putting in the work. I don't know how DAOs will play out, but they're fascinating to learn about. Subscribe to my newsletter. And yeah, that's Peter Yang's take on DAOs. So I wanted to open the stage a little bit to see how much you would agree with this vision. I do feel like I personally feel like concerned about, especially about like getting like 150K in shares and that stuff. Like it's not really like common, and I feel that it's starting to get less common as DAOs are better organized and start taking better care of their funds. But I wanted to see how much of this stake we could we could use for our own communication purposes, and especially around new contributors starting to join in and getting like the basics of participating in the DAO. So I'm gonna open the stage for I'll pass it to Durgaras, and I would love to listen to your opinion on Peter Yang's take on DAOs.
Yeah, I laughed the whole way through. It seems exactly correct, right up to the point where you get paid. But I guess we're all I still don't have that part of it figured out. I'm just here because I enjoy it, and if I get paid in the end, that's great. But also, my skills aren't particularly tech oriented, so I'm not entirely clear that person would exactly want to say, "Oh, here's the thing you do," and we pay you for that. So it's a bit of an interesting thing. I'll pass it to Griff.
Yeah, I think he's a little optimistic on the salaries and how many DAOs you can actively participate in. I don't think 5 is a lot, honestly. I mean, if you divide that up by a work week, let's say you're working a 60-hour week, then you put in 15-ish hours in each one. Is that right? 25? No, that would be 75 hours. I mean, that's impossible. That's just not possible. So maybe you have like some DAOs, lots of DAOs you hold tokens to, and maybe you go to their Discord once in a while, but I imagine 2 or 3 is like the max. And yeah, 150K, unless you're shadowy super coder, I don't think anyone's pulling 150K. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's the vibes, we could never say something like that because the analogy to shares of a company is a little bit taboo for an actual project to say. But it's very accurate, I think, in my opinion. This idea of tokens as money is bullshit to me. I see tokens as stock for sure. Like even in Bitcoin, these things are more like asset in a protocol, like in the network, more like stock in Amazon than it is like the US dollar. And I'll pass it to, oh no, I don't see the list. Acid Laser.
Thanks, Greg. I think that it makes a little sense in some aspects, but I agree with Griff that it's kind of impossible being 5 DAOs, and I agree with you, Chuy, that 150K it's the dream and a lot. So maybe 50-50, my agreement, and I pass it to Septi.
Thanks, Acid Laser. Yeah, I also agree. Like, I feel like even 2 DAOs. I mean, also depends on the level of involvement you have, but I feel with 1 DAO, it's, if you wanna do a lot of things, you could never end. Even in 1 DAO, there are things as a person you cannot, you don't have enough time to reach everything. So it also depends on the involvement you have, and yeah, I feel like it's very optimistic in that way. And yeah, on the other things, I think he's optimistic, but I think he's on he envisioned it in a right way. Maybe the salaries also are a bit too high, but yeah, I'll pass it to Tam.
Well, yeah, I think it's really funny. I also laughed the whole time you were reading it. And for me, it feels a little bit like a kind of marketing piece, like a promo piece for joining DAOs. And I think that's the context I would take it in. The idea of being in multiple DAOs, I think is really feasible actually if you have a skill set that is like a repeatable task. If you do the same task for many DAOs, it seems like very feasible. But if you want to get into the DAO and understand the culture and be part of a community, then it's a different kind of engagement with the DAO that you're in. So I think you can belong to few communities, but you can participate you can participate in a repeatable task across many DAOs. I maybe would look at that as a distinction from the experience of somebody's participation. And then I would say I'm really glad you shared it. I also dropped it in the Communitas channel because in the Communitas call, we're also looking at really the onboarding experience. And I think it's interesting to see people's perspectives. So I think I shared it on already. And do I have anything else to say? No, I really don't. I think it's I thought it was interesting the point about coming to either engage in a group or pick up these bounties, and that was actually one of the takeaways that just stuck in my mind. And I don't believe we heard Eduardo.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. Yeah, I share the sentiment. I don't have too much else to. I don't have too much else to add to this discussion. I feel that it is more of a kind of validation to subscribe to his newsletter rather than something else. Yeah, I don't think like all these points are valid. All these threats and triggers are valid because we still don't know a lot about the DAO world. So for me, it's nice to have a reference, but that's how much I value it. And I will pass it on to Nate.
Thanks, Edu. Yeah, I have a lot of problems with like these types of posts just because yeah, a lot of people say they're a part of DAOs, like Tam was talking about, and honestly, I've even tried to look into like other DAOs as I'm doing stuff here, and I can't keep up with like I just don't see how it's possible at all. And if you're giving out the expectation that you're going to make 150K a year for part-time work, your DAO is not going to last a very long time. So it's one of those things where I do think it's really important to manage expectations when it comes to contributors. I think it's best to start off small. Because you're gonna end up dealing with a lot more internal conflict than is necessary if you do not manage expectations as your first priority. And that's what I see as being a problem. Like they'll use this 150K salary and it'll be for like something like Uniswap or some $1 billion protocol, and you just go, okay, well, this is not going to apply for the mass majority of DAOs, but the number of people coming into DAOs see that and they say, oh, okay, I'm going to start exploring and wondering why I'm not getting paid that way. So it's like we really need to focus on managing expectations. But that's all I have to say. I'll pass it back to you, Chuy.
Thank you, Nate. Juanca, would you like to add something?
Yeah, that I agree that as the DAO space is so new, there's a lot of chaos around this this side of the picture, like the reward mechanism, and that's why we're like researching so much about it, because no one has like a perfect recipe, and there are a lot of frameworks on how to reward. And also I think that there are different types of DAOs, and there are some DAOs that are like DeFi DAOs, or oriented to making um, like numbers. And I think maybe people who is triggered by those topics are like wanting to have this amount of money as a reward. But there are also value driven DAOs, and I think that people who work in value driven DAOs, they don't see like money as their first motivation to contribute in the space. And I think I'm the last one.
Perfect. Thank you, Juanca. Yes, thanks everyone for this feedback. I definitely think that managing expectations is one of the current challenges. Um, there are different kinds of contributors to different kinds of DAOs. I also take this in account a lot because uh, there are like billion-dollar DAOs that are more are or in a way they are more they can afford like being a little bit more profit driven, so they can attract like very specific and special talent. And there are other DAOs that are not really like profit driven, and and yes, this is true when it comes to like conflict. Either if it's uh, like a new contributor or a past contributor to other DAOs, like having a different expectation when approaching a DAO could generate conflict. Since like in our case, we are not profit driven, and right now with the creatives that I've been talking to, there have been like two cases in which it's like and they do have like previous experiences in other DAOs, but as soon as I tell them like the thing is that we're not profit driven, and in that they kind of like lose interest. So I do also feel that tokens is money versus tokens is stock. It's like a huge insight into this. Um, and there should be a way in which when we talk about getting compensated for contributions, I feel that this is a really good topic that usually onboarding processes skip. So yes, definitely insisting on tokens as stock can be a really good input on a newcomer's perspective. So taking this feedback, I wanted to show everyone the manifesto that I've been working on. And again, this is all like an advice process. None of this is written in stone, but taking taking some advice from our last comms working group call, I feel that this gets closer, especially when it comes to expectations from new contributors. So I'll give it a read, and after this, I would love to listen to feedback from everyone. Okay, so the TC Communications is in a way like becoming T.E.A.M. It's a token engineering Amplify messengers. I also thought of like missionaries, but I don't really like the religion reference, so I'm still thinking about the M. But our goals would be to support the TEC narrative as a T shelling point, which should remain consistent across all the community platforms and accurately represent the TEC cultural build. Establish communications as a public good that can help the TEC community to successfully develop, edit, publish, and distribute high-quality content that promotes the field of token engineering, as well as supporting other projects. Provide an onboarding method for creatives that will guide them through the process of creating value for the token engineering field through different stages. Promote building bridges to other TE projects and communities, constantly looking for comms needs where T.E.A.M can provide services. Everyone in T.E.A.M must feel seen and heard, valued and rewarded, acknowledged, empowered, supported, and comfortable to share ideas. These are our working platforms, and this is our roadmap so far that I updated, just adding that we are going to be promoting our funding proposal. And this is something that I wanted to focus, like the contribution stages. Hopefully we can put together like a pyramid or something that gives like a more graphic idea, although a pyramid might not be the best option because it's vertical, but yeah, like this would be like the process for a creative to approach it. A new creative would be integrating to the cultural build, starting to attend some of the calls, participating in the community calls, maybe giving and getting some praise. I feel that maybe Rokas Benitez could be like at this stage right now, like he has the intention of contributing and he's been approaching the community. So he could be like a new creative that starts or that is on his way to start making more contributions. A team contributor would improving his or her the participation in the community via the reward system. So this could be working in a similar way than Poland does. We still don't have a lot of like metrics on this, and we don't have an idea of how this is going to work, right? So I feel that it as long as it gives people the experience of contributing and getting something back, that going back to what Griff said, could be like more interpreted or explained as stock rather than money, or getting paid with specifically with the reward system, which is going to be giving out the our governance token. I feel that this could help contributors get this part at this stage. How much like time is going to be there, and how much this contributor is going to be at this stage, and how long they take to start making more serious contributions. I really like that it's up to them with a bounty board, which would take us to number 3, a team member. They would be able to claim bounties and follow up on them, and also start having like first experiences with the TEC community being, I forgot the word. This happens to me every week. I'm so sorry. Being held accountable for the bounties that they claim. So if the step from number 2 to number 3 can be accountability as a variable, I feel that it really works pretty well if accountability is up to every contributor, rather than going through a nomination process or something that could be a little bit more hierarchical, right? So this would change from number 3 to number 4, because a team project manager would need to get approval from the community, specifically through conviction voting. But at the same time, if a contributor has been working for some months, participating in the governance, being able to be held accountable for the bounties that they claim, I feel that this is like a logical path, I think, for a creative to be able to start leading other projects. So like putting this as an example, a graphic designer approaches the TEC. So they start attending some of the meetings, they start engaging with the community, and then they feel that they can start maybe submitting like some basic design or some tweet suggestions, and all of this starts getting recognized through our reward system. This person stays here for, let's say, like 2 to 3 weeks. It could be like 2 to 3 months, and then they start, like, oh, I just like quit my day job or whatever. I have more free time, so now I'm able to claim some of the bounties. So the graphic designer would be having initiative, and the tools from the commons from the communications working group could be already like out there for them to claim some of these bounties. These bounties could also be attending other token engineering communities needs. It doesn't have to be strictly T.E.C., but I feel that T.E.C. could be a good start for this. So this graphic designer that has been like 3 months with us, then comes across a campaign that they can put together for the Token Engineering Academy, right? So they are aware of this need in the TE community, and they, with all of this reputation that they have been getting in the TEC, they can start saying like, I'm thinking of this campaign. I'm thinking of putting together this campaign, and I know this social media manager from the TEC, and I know this other graphic designer that could help me support. So the three of us are going to put together a proposal, and we're going to be providing comms needs for the Token Engineering Academy, right? So I feel that this could be a really good example of a path that creatives can follow, and they are able to choose their level of involvement rather than having a nomination system. So I wanted to see some of the feedback that you might have for this. This is all taking in some of your insights from past calls. So I'm just really excited to see what you think. So I'll start passing it to Nate, and I'll be writing down some of the feedback that you give me.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna pass this up to you. I want to get my thoughts in order on this.
Oh, I had the same feeling. Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. Yeah, I feel like bounties are good, and yeah, I pretty much agree. Like I feel like a good, like like you have like your core team on comms, like they get your like the repeating tasks you have during the period of time. But then you can also have bounties to extra projects, or if you need something concrete, but it's one time thing. And this bounty doesn't have to be picked by someone from outside the comms group. Like it could even be picked by someone who, for example, like imagine like Ashley Laser is doing all the designs, and he, like maybe he wants to work in the weekend and to climb this bounty, and he could do that, and I think that's good, and it should be, this extra effort should be compensated. And yeah, I'll pass it to Griff.
I think it seems reasonable. I think it doesn't matter. It of course matters how you start, and as long as you start with a reasonable thing, reasonable process, and some sort of expectation of mutual monitoring, then it's easy. And I think everything's transparent and easy to see, so it should be fine. The main thing is that it's flexible. It's like you do it, you try it, you go with it, you reassess after 2 months, and then change it. Because no matter whatever you decide now, it won't be perfect, and there'll be, you'll see holes and you'll see options to improve. So as long as it's flexible, I think it's good. I'll pass to T.E.A.M.
It's a whole lot to take in. First of all, I mean, what a great job in putting all of this together and all of this thinking that has gone into this. I think that's the thing that really stood out is that there's so much thought. I don't know who contributed to this, but there's a lot of thought into it, and I really appreciate that. I mean, to echo a little bit what Griff says, I really feel like if you look at any of our manifestos, they're usually out of date within 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So it is really important that it is something that can be changed. Yeah, I don't have so much. I guess I'm still really thinking about it because I guess I didn't expect it, and I'm not. I think I have nothing useful to say. So I'm going to pass to somebody else who might have something more useful. I'll pass it to you, Chuy, to pass it on.
Thank you, Tam. Let's pass it to Acid Laser.
Thanks. I really think that boundaries are good, and I also think that the first stage of giving praise and all that stuff can also help to look if the person that it's collaborating with us is good and if he's really engaged with the project, or maybe that time can help to help the people to get in the project, because not all people maybe are only for the money, and we want people to build a community. So maybe that could help a little bit. And I pass to Juanca.
Yeah. I have two questions, Chuy, and one is about if you have like made an idea of what would be like the fixed costs, like yeah, the platforms and stuff like that, and how is going to be that treasure management. And the other question is, if are you going to propose an initial proposal to the DAO?
Thank you, Juanca. Yes, I would like to make an initial proposal that covers like an initial amount of these bounties. There are, like, going back to the proposal that I already had shown to everyone, I still feel that the core team should be like the basis of this. Like, we won't be able to provide communications as a public service if we don't have like a well structured function in the TEC first. So this is what comes first, and the idea would be to have a funding proposal that would allow us to function and to meet these expectations for the first like 3 to 6 months, maybe, especially because it's an initial funding proposal. But part of this proposal would also be having like I don't really like the idea of maybe like a multi-sig, especially like around core contributors. I'm still trying to figure out what could be like the most transparent, like decentralized way to manage these funds. But I would definitely think that it could be up to the vote of every contributor that we have in. So these funds would be distributed maybe like in a weekly or maybe a bi-weekly period. It would function also with a spreadsheet that logs the bounties that everyone has been reaching, the core function of the TEC core team, and yeah, we would be able to cover for this, and in the most like transparent way. So it's a similar idea when it comes to how Gravitons report their conflict management. For example, I saw that the Gravity funding proposal was something like somewhere around that, like about having bounties for every conflict that gets a proper resolution from a graviton. So in a way, I feel that bounties also like simplify this a lot, because it's like, this is what we need, this is what you should deliver. So once that part is verifiable, and the contributor can be held accountable for delivering this, I feel that it is much easier for them to have the confidence of the community. Like, speaking about like a near future where these contributors would be able to start like their own like project management, like a full campaign, for example, that would be a little bit more difficult to track. But if they have already like been contributing to the community, and as Asset Laser was mentioning, like if we already went through like all of this process that clearly shows that a person is not like profit driven, and also the funds would never be like none of our funding proposals would be like directly deposited to an individual's account. I feel that we should set up like at least a multi-sig, which is what I'm trying to avoid. But if we can have like our own DAO platform, like our own like Aragon or something like this, or even a colony, we could be able to hand out these bounty rewards, and at the same time have space for for expanding this, let's call it like independence from contributors. So does this answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and let's pass it to Durgana.
Okay, well, so I just want to point out something, and to do that, I'm going to have to go to my trusty screen here. So when we're talking about bounties, it seems to me that what we're talking about is stuff that occurs up here in the clear, right? In the sense where we know everything about that. We as a management need to generally operate in the complex and the complicated, right? So we're experimenting with certain things, we get certain results out of that, and then we bring this up into the realm of the expert and say, okay, I need to get advice process, or I have a subject matter expert like talking to me about HubSpot, let's say, that type of thing. And then from that, then we establish clear, known, and familiar things. What I'm trying to figure out is it seems to me that we should have a bounty system that would account for all of these things, right? For the people who show up when things really go wrong. So let's say something we forgot about in the clear just breaks everything and shoves people off of this cliff, and then people are having to act and work. That should be something that's rewarded. And in terms of if we're going to have a bounty, that's why I was saying before that I feel like whether we're going to do a certain kind of monthly payment or whatever for people who are operating in the complex and the complicated, like a UBI type of reimbursement, makes more sense. If you're talking about, it makes more sense when you're operating strictly out of this side. If you're talking about working with an expert to figure out what's going on, it might make sense to have a bounty here, and it makes a heck of a lot more sense to have a bounty in the clear. So I think just in terms of making sense of what it is that we're asking people to do, whatever our bounty or UBI or whatever our remuneration system needs to take into account the people who showed up when things really went wrong, people who really showed up for the long slog where we're trying to figure it all out as we're going along. Do you know what I'm saying? And then people who are really experts in whatever the known stuff is, and then the people who create these clear mechanisms. So I think if we're going to be remunerating people, we need to have something that sort of thinks about it in those terms. Also, in terms of motivation, it can be helpful to look at Keegan's developmental theory, where you can see that there are these different sort of underlying motivations for people, right? So So you can see in terms of percentage, most of the people that we're going to be dealing with are going to be in the technician or achiever sort of layers. And then there's some strategists, which we're all basically doing right now. People like Griff and Livy, myself, other people who are thinking about things in the sort of transformational positive sum game stuff. Those are those people, and it seems to me that we need to be able to have bounties and missions and other things that exist for individual people at all of these action modes and in these motivational sort of developmental looks too. So that's I guess my perspective on this. So I can include both of those in the document if you like, Chuy.
Thank you, Dergaras. I already added these actually.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for this. Yeah, especially I think that for like the 4 different like steps or stages, let's call them. I feel that Keegan's developmental theory is like a perfect compass for this. So thank you very much for sharing.
Sure.
I want to add something that I might be wrong.
Go ahead, Septi.
Yeah, we were talking before like about value-driven people, and I think what's most important, like especially like I feel like value-driven people is very important. Like before the hatch, like after the hatch, what is more important is like people that provides, like you're paying to people who provides value, but what his values are, it doesn't matter. Like if he wants to, after getting the bounty, sell all this token right away, that's part of the economy and that's fine. Like it shouldn't be a big deal. And if like what's important, if you're asking for something like, I don't know, a design or whatever you're asking for, like the content is have quality, and you should choose the one who, in my opinion, who brings more quality over than the one that his values might be or less or more driven. But I feel that the most important thing is like the value that this contributor is bringing to the table. It's the quality of the work is more important, in my opinion.
Thank you, Septi. I'll pass it to Nate. I don't know if you feel ready.
I'm ready. So I can only tell you that like I do like the idea of the Cynefin framework as a framework for like categorizing tasks that need to be done. But if I were to do this, like if it was my decision, I think that stewards, it's really important for stewards to set out a vision and kind of different verticals for initiatives, especially early on, if you want to have that DAO infrastructure to set up these core pieces of your functioning, of your operations. And in order to do that, it's something like, if you have design and you give Acid Laser the agency and empower him to say, hey, you take all of the design work within the TEC and say, what do you need to be successful? You create your own verticals, Acid Laser, and you say, I'm going to do that for design, and David can do that for Twitter. And so you have this kind of roadmap and vision for these different verticals throughout the comms that can make make this kind of a process. And we're going to see people who aren't value aligned, who are going to work in multiple DAOs, kind of like Tam said. Those people are going to have to be task oriented, where it's kind of like, I'm doing a job. A single job, and I'm going to do that very well and efficiently. And mapping out those tasks is really important for, depending on how we pay people. I think there's a big difference between bounties and providing fair pay for a fair amount of work. I think those two things are very distinctly different. I think bounties, you invite competition, which is fine, but you're going to have some type of bidding process for people who want to fight for that work. And so you either have this kind of open system where people are kind of bidding for those types of bounties, or you have a closed system where you say this type of work gets this type of pay. And I would say that setting up those verticals of things that you want to build within the comms to make it sustainable long-term are like the base infrastructure for your DAO, I think is really important to set up first. And so creating those verticals and having small tasks that contributors can actively participate in when they first join, say, here's a task, do this task, this is your reward. Having that clear expectation and that clear, reward system at the beginning, I think is really important. And then you can expand once you accomplish those verticals and those initiatives and set up that infrastructure. You can do whatever you want after that. But I think that it's really, really important to set up those types of verticals and to have that vision beforehand and making sure that these are the things that I want to set up before we get going. And this is how we're going to operate. Because if you leave any type of ambiguity in that, you're going to have a lot of chaos, and that's not great. And so I think that combined with using that Cynefin framework for categorizing your tasks, I think you can incorporate different styles of reward systems for different styles of work. But yeah, I just think that from a steward's perspective, I would like to see, people setting up that type of infrastructure, just having those visions and those roadmaps, those small roadmaps that can be developed by individuals within that group.
Yeah, especially
Perfect. Thanks
within
so
that
much,
action
Nate.
mode.
Go ahead, Durgata. Sorry.
Oh, especially within that action mode, right? So if you're just in a clear thing, when things happen, then you just stick it into your categorized bucket that's been sort of pre-chunked for you, and there you go, right? In some way, though, that has inherently lesser value, though, than architecting the entire system, right? That's what I'm saying about if you got people in there, dealing with the complexity of the system. We just need to make sure, we're setting up a system that would, proportionally reward folks like that.
Yeah, and I would hope there's a different type of reward system that is incorporated for something like that, rather than people engaging on Twitter, those things. I think those are the things that you have to budget for, and I think that's saying, hey, if I have 5 different verticals: Twitter, HubSpot, design, external comms, you should have X amount of dollars going to each of that equally, probably each month, and making sure that there's fair pay for that type of work. And maybe the people who are leading those initiatives and who have the agency maybe get paid a little bit more, or get a UBI on top of whatever you have budgeted for that particular month. But I do think that organizing it in that way is really important, because you get consistency and a cultural expectation of how things work. Because if we still have this kind of ad hoc approach towards engagement and reward, then you're going to have chaotic results, and I think that that should be avoided, especially early on if you want to start the DAO.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this, everyone. We're almost at the top of the hour. Just before I forget, I think Juanca mentioned fixed costs. So a good example of this is, for example, our subscription to HubSpot would be included in this exercise of the budget. So yeah, I just wanted to be clear on that before we start putting together a final budget. So we're at the top of the hour. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for being here. Thanks for all of your feedback. I really love what we're putting together around here, and it's going back to what Tam said. It's thanks to everyone that has been making suggestions on this. So I'm very, very happy on how this is getting. We're putting this together. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you later throughout the day.